Hello, everyone. Hello. It is another Monday evening. It's already been a very long week on this Monday, but we're here to talk all about the Battle of Jedha. It is Wes's first led roundtable, and I'm very excited about it. I'm excited to chat all about this Phase 2 entry with you all. We have a little bit of news at the top that we'll get through quickly, but because it's a roundtable night, there's no time to waste, which means, Wes! Oh god, I'm wasting time. Punch it! Welcome to the Living Force, a UTD Network podcast. Tonight, that's all about the Battle of Jedha and what happens therein. I'm one of your hosts, Eric Eilerson, and joining me tonight to talk all about the audio drama entry to end Wave 1 of Phase 2 of the High Republic. I was unsure about each word as I said it, but that's correct. It is a full crew, starting off with Dr. Charles Hankel. What's up, buddy?
Hey guys, I'm still not used to it coming to me first, but I'm very used to my video glitching for, at least the first 15 minutes of the show. So bear with me, but I'm here.
You're here. There you go, everyone. Charles Hankel, definitely.
How about
here.
That Super Bowl, guys?
No, you didn't. Don't lie to the people. Don't lie to the people. But you know who else we have? A person who would never lie to the people because they are a beacon of grace, goodness, light, and truth. It's Wes Jenkins.
Hey, everybody. I am dog tired from putting this roundtable together. Charles, I do not envy you whatsoever. I see now how much work these are. And not just because you have to read them thoroughly. I had to read it twice, if not 2.5 times, to try to get some of these details. So everybody be nice to me tonight, please. But I'm excited. I'm excited to get this one going.
Yeah, I'm excited too, and I hope you are all excited to watch and listen to Wes's first and currently last roundtable. It's gonna be great. But of course, with us is not Dr. Corey Helton. He is indisposed in the wilds of the earth. He is elsewhere, spreading. He's on vacation, but he'll be back soon. But in his stead is the recently 30'd Timothy Guthrie. Hey man, how's your back?
It hurts so bad. Everything's louder. My knees are popping. I'm not a fan of this. Wes, how do you do this?
Drink a lot of water, Tim.
I got you. I'm here. I got you. Good to see you guys.
Good to see you. It's been too long, buddy. We're always happy to get you on here. And you read the Battle of Jedha a while back, as I did. So we're excited for your thoughts. And of course, for everyone that's watching and listening to us, we're excited for your thoughts. I hope you're going to enjoy. And if you're watching live, comment. Let us know what you thought about the book. But audio drama, audio files, I don't know how to talk about this thing yet. But regardless, if you're listening to us and watching us, hello, we love you. Thank you for your support. Make sure you're liking this video, subscribing to the channel, subscribing on your podcast feed. And you know what? We haven't had a lot of reviews on the podcatchers lately, and I think it's time to change it. If you haven't given us a review yet, take the couple seconds, go 5 stars. And other things. I also haven't left a review in a while, so whatever they do now, we would love that. It helps people find the show. Or send it to your aunt or something, Maybe if she wants to get into Star Wars books. Who's to say? We're going to skip our personal life updates right now for this week because it is a roundtable and we got to get to them. But only to say, go Chiefs. Excellent Super Bowl. Amazing Super Bowl. I'm wearing red for the Chiefs and for my buddy Morton. Thoughts and good vibes are appreciated because tomorrow he has a neurology appointment. So all the love is appreciative. All the love, though, is more appreciated as a company, I should say. From our Patreon community, we want to thank a few lovely people, including Amir, who switched to an annual patron instead of monthly this past week, and then Megan Lloyd and Eric Werzer, who became monthly patrons this past week as well. Tim, I think it was the magic of your birthday that caused us to happen. You're our Patreon manager. I think you engendered this.
I'll take it.
Yeah, as well you should. You're a magical man.
I love you people. Thank you for being with us.
Thank you all so much, so dearly. And again, you can go to patreon.com/Utini to go help out the site, help out the show. Check out all the extra content, including MC Utini, which just got dropped. Wes, I know we're not doing any official announcements, but do you want to tease some of the meetings you had this week regarding Patreon about things that might be coming?
Sure.
We're working.
Sure. There are some things happening in the background. We are formulating a new old show for just for our Patreon, and it is light speed skipping. So light speed skipping is coming back. We're gonna have rotating hosts, so you can kind of hear from a lot more voices of Utini. So be sure to keep a lookout for that in the next coming months.
Yes, we're testing, of course. We're doing, as many of you who have been around for a while know, that every time there's a new Utini product, or you may not know actually, we do an extensive amount of testing behind the scenes to make sure that everything is good and get everyone ready. So keep an eye out for Lightspeed Skipping coming your way later this year. All right, Wes, it is time for our speediest but cutest ever Star Wars Weekly Roundup.
It's the Star Wars Weekly Roundup.
What y'all know about nubs? What if that was it? Then we just moved on. No, everybody, we got an announcement this week for a new show that is coming in the Star Wars world. We had heard about this show, but we got a confirmation of date and time. I mean, not time. I guess it's probably going to be midnight Pacific. But May the 4th this year, not only, I believe, are we getting Visions Season 2, but we're getting the Young Jedi Adventures, everybody! The High Republic set, young audience animated show, starring a bunch of great-looking characters, but most importantly, Nubs. Guys, how do we describe Nubs on here? Also, what is Nubs? He's not an Ewok, is he? What is the Nubs?
No. He is Star Wars. That's all that matters.
He is Star Wars.
Move over, Grogu. There's a new merch king in town.
Nub, a Pooba. He's a Pooba.
Well, that's
He's a
fun.
Pooba. Wes, I did not put this in the doc. Can we throw a picture of Nubs up? Do you have that
I'm
possibility?
looking.
Find this Nubs. Charles, have you seen Nubs? We haven't talked
No,
about Nubs.
that's why I haven't. I can't comment thus far, but I'm very intrigued.
Okay.
I can only assume Nubs is rather yubby,
Not quite.
not quite
Nubs,
yubby.
Nubs sounds like
He's
a
getting
chicken
there.
nugget.
He does sound like a chicken nugget. He's adorable. I will say one of the cool things about this. So while we're pulling that up, the Star Wars Young Jedi Adventures. It's gonna be for younger audiences. So we're not gonna be covering it extensively on the show. I'll be watching it definitely. But one of the cool things is that they also announced a publishing initiative alongside it. Not any. There's Nubs.
Oh,
Look at
Look at him.
He is perfection. He is life.
That's like if
Look at
Sully
his
from
robes.
Monsters Inc. was an infant.
Yeah, with a deadly weapon.
It looks like a towel with a hole cut out in the middle.
I'm trying to
Oh, look
imagine
at
him
him.
angry, and I just can't.
Oh, now he was definitely on Starlight Beacon, right? Like,
Oh, my
Oh,
God.
come on,
No.
man.
come on, probably.
No.
Roasted Nubs. Oh,
Oh,
He's also
love
a hockey
him.
player.
yeah. We
in
can't
real
have
life.
nice things, can we, Eric?
No.
Why'd you have to say that?
Maybe he's okay. But a lot of love for Nubs. And if you have some younglings at home, they are gonna be publishing a bunch of like young reader books. So if you've gotten like the like level 2 reading books that Star Wars has come out with and things like that, there's gonna be some of those for Young Jedi Adventures. There's gonna be, I believe, a little golden book, and a few other things. So really fun. Again, this isn't gonna be for everybody. That's fine. But how cool is the High Republic's first television show medium is going to be a child's young adventures show? Sure. Why not? May the 4th. Check it out. But of course, before May the 4th, we have a bunch of Star Wars to get to, including tomorrow, the Battle of Jedha script book, and March 7th, Star Wars Jedi Battle Scars by Sam Maggs. And, guys, I can finally put this on the calendar. Oz, I hope you're watching. Hunters Battle for the Arena by Mark Oshiro is coming out March 7th. Is it?
March 7th?
Both March 7th. So this is the book based on the mobile game Hunters that had, if we all remember, a giant display at Star Wars Celebration. And we have heard nothing since then. Right? Like, what is this Hunter's book coming out? Let's do an impromptu dead or nah. Charles, Hunter's Battle for the Arena, dead or nah?
Not dead, because I still want to play that game with the what was it?
The
little
Jawas?
Jawas, right? Stacked on top of each other. Yeah, that's too good of a bit to let die.
Okay. There it is. That's the cover.
Yeah, it paralleled the Lego booth. It had
inside.
It was huge. Yeah.
Massive. Wes, not the game. This book, dead or not?
Oh, dead. It's roadkill, my friends. This thing.
They deleted the PDF. It's gone. Tim, your introductory dead or not?
This is dead, but what is not dead is in 30 years the documentary about Hunters, the long lost Star Wars project.
Yeah, when they finally run out of material, let's just bring up all the stuff that got canceled 30 years ago.
I will say this book is not dead, but it will be delayed until like November. They're just gonna push it way out. And Hunters itself is a money laundering scheme. That's what I'm thinking. But you know what? Until it's officially dead, you can still go to the utini.com new release calendar and get your pre-orders in for Battle for the Arena or Jedi Battle Scars. So very excited to see if it's real or not. We'll find out in just about a month. Now, before we get to our roundtable, as we're doing these weeks, we want to briefly touch on the Bad Batch Season 2. We're not doing any in-depth stuff, no spoilers, anything like that. But we did get our mid-season finale this week with episodes 7 and 8, The Clone Conspiracy and Truth and Consequences. Charles, you hate Star Wars and did not watch these. Is that correct?
That's right. Yeah, I didn't watch these. I didn't listen to the audio drama for tonight's roundtable either. I really don't know why I'm here or what to do with my hands.
Eric, I thought y'all were friends, dude.
I tried.
No,
Charles loved it, by the way. Tim, what'd you think?
Yeah. No, I did not watch these episodes yet, but I've heard good things. I'm excited to. I've just had some other things on my plate, but I will get around to them very soon.
I will say Charles was officially too busy to come over to watch the Super Bowl with me this weekend, so I believe you. I believe you. You had things to do. Because if you couldn't come and watch there's no way you're watching Bad Batch. I get it.
I didn't even watch the Super Bowl, so yeah.
Tim, what about you? What do you think about episode 7 and 8?
When the story goes as hard as these do, when you match that with the animation and the score, there is no better Star Wars to have ever existed, I think. I mean, just when the story is firing, it is firing. And I hope we get more of this.
Love, great singing praises. Wes, what do you think about these two episodes?
I would just like to say, finally, we got some substance. We got some explanation. No running around on these crazy missions that end up with nothing. It's nice because I watched the second to last episode that aired, and I was like, whoa, that's like. This is serious storylines that we've been asking for years, if not decades. And then they went further with it in the last episode. So if you haven't watched it yet, Charles, you should watch it.
Ringing endorsement. I will say, okay, brief spoiler here. It's not huge. You could probably gather it from seeing some images. So brief spoiler. Bale's voice was weird. Weird accent choice by Phil Lamar. My boy Bail Organa supremacy continues. I love him. Put him in everything. Phil Lamar, you've done this voice a ton. He doesn't have that accent. That was odd. But other than that, I think the Clone Conspiracy episode 7 for me, far and away the best episode of the season. I think it's odd that we're kind of continuing the trend in Star Wars TV of the episodes that don't really feature the main characters are the best, which is odd.
Yeah.
I liked episode 8, how it did come together again outside of spoilers. I loved this as well. This 1-2 punch was great. Agree with you. Finally, we're getting this. I will say my cynical brain was like, I am going to be now so much angrier if we go back to like, oh God, that fascism was crazy. Stormtroopers are coming.
They did.
Hey, Rekka, do you want to go to a... I'm like, no. Stop,
They did say in the beginning, I'm really tired of waiting around on Sid. Yes, I'll come help you. And then we're like, all right, now I'm ready to help Sid.
Yeah.
It just goes right back to what we were at.
I feel like it's a title issue. Don't call it the Bad Batch. Call it something else. Featuring the Bad Batch for this arc.
No. This was straight up old school Clone Wars stuff. It was great. Yep. Absolutely loved it. 10 out of 10, 20 out of 10. It got me reinvested in the season, which I think mid-season finales are supposed to do. Like, they're supposed to really get the momentum and really shoot us out for the next bit. Which, you know what, actually, while we're here...
Speaking of, does that mean there's going to be a break now before more episodes, or no?
I don't think so. I don't think so. I think they just did a double up. So, yeah, we're not, like, pausing for sweeps week or whatever.
Okay, asking for a friend, not me.
Yeah, right, of course. But the next episode, I'm just looking on IMDb right now. So the next episode is just called The Crossing and then Retrieval. Retrieval sounds like they're going to go get something. I hope it's an artifact and not like a
fishing
person.
trip.
A fishing. If it's a good fishing trip, I don't mind it.
Big Koopa fish.
Yes. Overall, awesome episodes of The Bad Batch. Glad they righted the ship. And if you want kind of more in-depth stuff, there's a lot of great Star Wars podcasts out there that are doing deep dives every single week. If you were used to our bounty hunt shows, we love you very much. We thank you for your support. The year got a little crazy. Maybe someday in the future, again, that might come around back. But for now, we're telling you we loved it. Let us know what you thought. And, of course, we'll be tuning in every Wednesday for more Bad Batch. All right. It's all come to this. Wave 1 of the High Republic Phase 2 had some ups and downs. We've talked about the main projects. We've talked about some things we've wanted. We've talked about some things we liked. We've talked about some things we're confused on. But it was all very clearly leading back to Jedha. Tonight, it's time to talk all about the Battle of Jedha. Full spoilers for George Mann's audio drama that are coming up. And this, without any further ado, is Wes Jenkins' first roundtable. So, Wes, the reins are yours, buddy. Let's do this. Okay.
Without further ado, I just had to sip of water. I will try not to mush mouth this all the way through the summary. This was my first time. Here we go. Whoop, whoop. A formal peace treaty is to be signed between the longtime conflicting worlds of Irem and Arano, with the marriage of Ziri Albaran from Arano and Fonduzin from Irem. The treaty looks to end the forever war with a documented truce signed by ambassadors of the two worlds. Master Creighton's son and Jedi Knight Ada Forte are attending the conference as impartial peacekeepers, which coincides with the convocation of the Force's Festival of Balance, which promotes and celebrates all Force users and their various beliefs. Now, before I lose any of you, the convocation of the Force is an advisory board designed to promote understanding between all the various Force religions on Jedha, like the Disciples of the Wills, Guardians of the Wills, the Jedi Order, Church of the Force, all that. So it's a completely different sect of Jedha on the Holy City. The mediator between the two worlds will be Morton Santeca, who is assisted by Church of the Force member Keth Sarapath. Jedi Master Salander Show also found her way to the Holy City for the Season of Light, which was a pilgrimage for Jedi and just happened to coincide with a peace treaty between Irem and Arano. After stopping to speak with the two Guardians of the Wills, Misuk and Selik, Salander is approached by a young girl handing out flowers from the Path of the Open Hand. Unbeknownst to the little girl, Solander's show is a Jedi, and the Path of the Open Hand do not agree with the Jedi's use of the Force. Marta Rowe makes it heavily apparent that the Jedi are not welcome amongst the Path, and their abuse of the Force brings forth imbalance. Shortly after the incident with Marta Rowe, Solander's show runs into her old friend, Master Creighton's son. Solander notices that Creighton is feeling a bit tense about the peace proceedings and suggests he join her at the Dome of Deliverance to visit the Kyber Mirrors. On the morning of the signing of the peace treaty, Keth Sarapath sleeps in and is awakened by Morton Santeca, who he was supposed to help escort to the peace treaty. After Morton and Keth reach the destination for the ceremony, Keth runs back up to fetch Morton a glass of water. While doing so, Keth leaves a window open for his droid P-37A to watch and document the historic occasion. Before Keth could make his way back to Morton, a bomb goes off and kills the impartial mediator while wounding many others. A ceremonial droid was seen as the bomb carrier, but many stories soon surfaced of who was talking with the droid before the explosion occurred. A person wearing IRA military colors, maybe, is said to have been the culprit. Master Creighton needs Solander's show to investigate the bombing because he and Ada need to be impartial to both worlds and not look like they are taking sides or implicating any one group. Even after the bombing at the ceremony, the peace treaty is still scheduled to be signed. The Path of the Open Hand implicate the Jedi based on the Force working to define balance and also provide immediate aid to the victims of the blast. A new mediator is needed for the signing because, right? You need somebody to be the to be the Speaker of the House, if you will. So, between the two worlds, another prospecting family taking the position. Tilson Graff is chosen as the ceremony speaker and was heavily endorsed by IRAM Ambassador Xerox after a secret meeting between the two. As Creighton's son escorts Ambassador Xerox back to her room, another bomb goes off right as she tries to walk in. Creighton is able to throw her away from the blast, but Ambassador Xerox's arm is damaged in the aftermath, not to mention her thin agreement with the peace treaty. A third explosion happens soon after, which caused Ambassador Tintak to lose his hand. Someone is trying to keep the treaty from being signed, and the resolve of the ambassadors has been destroyed. Tensions are running high throughout the city, and matters are worsened when Natty from the Path of the Open Hand lets loose a group of Force-sensitive Wargarens, or Wolverines that I thought they were called, who run amok and injure multiple people before being rounded up by the group. The Path is cheered for caging the beast, yet they were the ones responsible for letting them out in the first place. Solander's show and Creighton's son cannot understand why their visions are clouded and feel like their heads are swimming within the presence of the mother and members of the Path. They should have been able to sense the bombings and feel instances of any wrongdoing going on during the proceedings, yet nothing tipped them off. The mother lets the leveler loose amongst the people of the whole city, and a riot soon ensues when an assassin wearing none other than IRA military colors shooting and killing Ambassador Tintak. This was the last straw for the ambassador, Xerox, as forces from Arano ascend upon the city and create even more havoc with the IRAM supporters. Solander's show is still trying to piece together the events of the first bombing during the peace ceremony and uses P3's memory banks to view what was happening right before the explosion occurred. A person in black robes that resembled the Brothers of the Ninth Door were seen with the ceremonial droid right before the bomb detonated. The ringleader was revealed to be Tilson Graff himself, who paid the Brothers of the Ninth Door, the Path of the Open Hand, and the Ambassador of IRAM to ruin the ceremony. During the Battle of Jedha, while both IRAM and Arano forces fought with mechanized units and enforcer droids, Solander's show and Seelik fought both sides to protect the people of Jedha and minimize as many casualties as possible. She was taken off guard by one of the Brothers of the Ninth Door and was saved by none other than Keth Sarapath, who unfortunately lost his life in the process. Master Creighton's son is able to convince both IRAM and Arano ground forces to lay down their weapons and choose peace, while Ambassador Xerox describes how IRAM will never lay down their weapons against Arano. Jedi Knight Ada Forte and Master Creighton's son return to Coruscant to provide a full briefing to the Council, while Solander's show returns to Jedha to tell the tale of Keth Sarapath so that his memory may live on forever within the walls of enlightenment.
Boom!
Killed it.
So,
Boom, boom!
Nice job, Wes.
Thank
That
you
was
very
really
much.
good.
Excellent.
I needed that.
I remember that now.
It's so helpful.
So good.
The Battle of Jedha by George Mann. Tim, you're the guest of honor. We'll go with you first.
Thank you. You honor me. Thank you. I this might be controversial. I think that this was the most well put together audio drama we've gotten so far. I was able to follow it super well, though your summary did help again. But I had a good time with it. I think the pacing was fun. I got to kind of resonate with the characters a bit more than I think I was anticipating. I've had some trouble with phase 2 so far, but this really kind of solidified where we're going next, and I think that was a big help. And the performances just really sold it for me. So big fan.
For sure. Charles?
Wow. Well, I'm really glad that it did that for you, Tim. And I hope that some of that rubs off on me, because I will say, honestly, I was not the biggest fan of this one. And that hurts me to say, because I love George Mann.
You're a
and
George
I want him
fan.
to keep, yeah, I'm a George fan of George Mann. And I want him to keep making Star Wars. This one didn't do it for me. And I think it was just kind of that the project was the meeting of two things that have been bothering me. And one of them is that I'm not sure I'm that big of a fan of audio dramas. I personally have trouble following them. And it's not just this one. It's been kind of all of them. I had to re-listen to a lot of parts and all of that. I don't know why it just doesn't grab me the same. I thought Dooku Jedi Lost was like really, really good. And since then, I've had a lot of trouble with them. The other thing is that exactly what you were saying, Tim, this book helped you with. I have not felt very connected to the characters. And because of that, I don't have like a great mental image of them, and they're not all that different in my head. Like a Jedi is a Jedi in some respects.
Mm-hmm.
And so those two things kind of coming together made this more difficult for me to enjoy. I can still tell the production quality was phenomenal. I still thought that the story was fun. I thought the pacing was good. It was very, very fast paced. But yeah, overall, I found this one to be a little bit more troublesome for me.
Okay. And Eric?
I'm gonna surprisingly maybe be a little more with Charles on this one, and I'm interested for the conversation for that reason.
Mm-hmm.
I've also had a little bit of a tough time accessing phase 2 as much as I'd like. After this audio drama, I kind of took a step back and thought about, okay, wave 1, where was I in phase 1 versus phase 2, which is pseudo unfair, right? Because they're different. But like, I was willing to like run through a brick wall for Loden Greatstorm after like a chapter or so, and I really can't quite connect with the characters in phase 2 as much. And with this one, again, huge fan of George Mann. He's one of my favorite people, and I do think he did a good job with the technical aspects of writing it for what was asked. But for me, when we ended it, I felt like we were kind of almost still in a holding pattern of Iram and Arano don't like each other still, and I'm still a little unsure as to why they're so important. The Path of the Open Hand are bad guys, but people still kind of think they might be good, but they kind of don't, which we kind of knew in Path of Deceit, I guess. And I'm just kind of like, I'm not sure where we went with it. I will say, my MVP, which I know we're going to talk about throughout the show tonight, of the whole audio drama was Solandra's show. I loved Solandra's show. She is easily my favorite character of the phase so far. Every time she was on screen, I suppose, I was very excited. I thought her voice actress did a tremendous job, and her battling with like using the Force to like move the shield around as she was blocking stuff was amazing. Her scene with Keth at the end, I thought was actually quite emotional, and I liked that a lot. But I'm interested to see folks do this. I guess I'm interested to see how the community at large reacts to the script book, because there are so many factions in this. So many, like the Guardians of the Wills are in this, and the Convergence of the Force. There's so many different people, and there's a lot of different characters. In the chat, they made a comment about like Creighton and Creighton, which are two different people in audio.
Which
which
so hard.
Massive. I love. Listen, Star Wars Publishing, I love you. George, I love you. That's a massive misstep. Creighton and Creighton in an audio-only format is insane. But overall, I'm excited to talk more about it because, again, like we said, we always kind of come around more on these as time goes on. But I really did feel a little more lost than I would have liked to. And I also weirdly feel that the battle came a bit late in it. There was a lot of kind of mystery at the top. And then by the time we got there, I was like, wait, why are we why are we fighting? Oh my God, they're dropping mechs from space. Like, that was cool. But I think I missed a few steps along the way. So I'm excited to see if I can kind of connect those by the end of our talk tonight.
I think this was a tough ask for George Mann to do an audio drama, because normally you have the narrator telling you what's happening during a battle, and he was tasked to have the characters describe what's going on as the battle is going on. Like, oh no, Master Creighton's son, how could you cut that man's arm off, even though he didn't do any of that? But like, it's hard to describe it from a character speaking rather than a narrator telling you what's going on. And that's probably why the battle scenes were so short, why the actual battle was so short, because if you wanted to like draw that out longer, it would have been a lot more just like characters trying to describe what's going on to you, and you're just like, all right, enough of that already.
Meanwhile, back at the Battle of Jedha,
You can only listen to it in certain scenarios, like mostly with headphones, because you can't be like driving through your neighborhood with the windows down and you just hear bombs exploding and someone going, my leg. Like, you can't do that in public.
There were some horrible screams going on during the battle. They're just like, and I was like, oh, well, I mean, that's great production work and everything, but
it was a bit odd. And I also, how'd you guys feel about the scope of it, I guess? Because I feel like the battles in like Light of the Jedi, The Great Disaster, Rising Storm, even the battle on Valo, like I feel like those were kind of like city sprawling giant things and things coming in from space. Whereas I think the Battle of Jedha technically was also that, but it felt smaller to me. And
it did
I don't
feel
know
smaller
why.
to me too. Yeah,
I think it's because of what Wes said, though, is because you have to see things happen through the lens of 2 or 3 people. So it's hard to make that feel massive.
Yeah,
I think this was also one of the shorter audio dramas that we've gotten.
Oh yeah,
like it was I think
short.
6-hour runtime.
No, we were
so
again.
that's a lot to cram into such a small little package.
Oh yeah, our friends at Penguin Random House Audio again sent this over for review. We wrote the review of it a month ago, and I remember getting the files and loading them up and being like, "Oh, do I have this on like double speed?" But I don't listen to double speed because I'm not I respect the work.
That's a good point.
Listen,
Good thing to say.
I respect the work. I listen at about time and a quarter usually because it sounds like everyone just kind of had a cup of coffee and are just a little bit on. But yeah, no, I was surprised at the runtime. It was a lot shorter than the other ones. Which again, looking at this tome next to me, you couldn't really guess because it is a thick boy. But it did go by fast. I'll give it that.
Okay, so let's get into some discussion topics, and I'll start with pretty much the main theme I feel that George Mann was trying to push on, and we got it a little bit from Convergence as well. So George Mann uses 2 beliefs, the Jedi and the Path of the Open Hand, throughout the events of the audio drama. The Path believe the Force is free, and if you manipulate it, an equal consequence will emerge. Whereas the Jedi see the Force as an energy that binds all living things, no cause and effect for harnessing its power. And every time the Path said the Force is free, I kept thinking of the Queen's song, I Want to Break Free. The Force will break free. You know? I couldn't get that out of my head.
Also, wait, I don't think I realized this till you read that, Wes. Do the Path just believe in physics?
Yeah, like equal and
for every action.
Yeah.
Just an opposite reaction.
So,
guys, wait, are we anti-science if we like the Jedi? I'm kind of worried about this.
And after I listened to it for the first time, I was like, I mean, they have a freaking point. And even though you can't actually find a set example where because you did something with the Force and manipulated the Force, this happened, but you can't technically agree nor disagree with what happened.
That's what I was going to say is if you're going to argue that the Path are good scientists, they do not understand the difference between correlation and causation.
Yeah.
So that,
Great point.
That would not go well.
So one of the first quotes that I pulled was Marta's belief of why Kevmo died in the previous stories in Convergence, right?
Path of Deceit.
Path of Deceit. Sorry.
Path of Deceit.
Okay, and so it's what the Jedi do that's bad. You understand that the Force will always find balance, always. When people like the Jedi twist the Force and use it in ways that were never meant to be used, they disrupt that balance. They may use its power to save a life, and for a while, everyone will think they've done a good thing, a kind thing. But if they save a life here, someone else must die to restore the balance. That's...
I don't like it.
That's just population control, my guy.
Exactly.
That's just
But you could say so-and-so died from, 8 other worlds over, and that was because so-and-so used the Force over here.
Yeah.
I mean,
Way to go, Chris.
And there's no like temporal aspect to it either. It's like, yep, they saved someone here, and in 15 years, someone else is going to die, and it's directly because of this thing. Like,
exactly.
I will say that's one of the fascinating things about the Path as an entity. I haven't loved them as much as I've wanted to necessarily in this phase, but the way that the writers of this initiative have used kind of cult ideology with them is actually like super accurate, right? I mean, you think about like from very intense religious leaders to like secular cults, the idea of control is always based around, well, you did this, so this happened, and it's blame and guilt, and then the cult or religion, whatever it may be, can offer salvation, offer absolution, or offer absolution? Yeah. But in order for that to happen, you have to have a principle that, like, you did something wrong. Therefore, something bad happened, and we are the only ones that can make it right. And I think that psychology is very present in this, especially when you see, like, when the little girl gave Solandra the flower. They're teaching little kids that even acts of kindness are bad because they should already start to feel guilty, which puts them in the path's grass for the rest of their life.
Yeah.
There's a scene where Marta goes to question the mother about something, and she's like, well, I was just thinking about, and then the mother goes into this like monologue about all the things that she should be thinking about, and then that's where the conversation goes from there. And I was like, oh, I hate this woman. I hope she dies a brutal, slow, painful death. Oh my God.
Like, this is how you're supposed to think, Marta. This is how you're supposed to teach the littles.
Yeah. Oof.
Okay.
Not a fan.
Speaking of the mother, there's a nice little foreshadowing that she used when she was speaking about Solandra's show. So one of the things that was brought up is, what if Solandra's show doesn't understand that the belief from the path of the open hand? And the mother says, then the Force will find a way to balance her crimes too, to level itself. And I was just like, oh, I see what you're doing there.
God. Yeah, a lot of I'm glad we're getting more blunt about the leveler and like things like that, honestly. I think that we all know it's coming. So it's like, just say it. Just do. I understand what you're doing. Let's go.
And that instance was brought up more than once in the audio dramas, which is kind of funny.
Right.
Yeah. I do think that one of the interesting things that we still haven't seen, I still want to see this, is you can kind of understand how in this cult, the path of the open hand, how the members are controlled by everything that you guys were just saying. But how in the world does that become the raging like drug parties in other space or no space, whatever it is?
Yep.
Like, how does it turn into that? Do they still think in that moment? Like, what happens? I need to know this.
Charles, you have single-handedly in that moment described my biggest barrier of entry in phase 2 at this point, because I want to know, there's a reason why we came here, right? There's a reason George went to the prequels, is to show Anakin's fault. Like, there's a reason why we went back, and we haven't quite gotten it yet, because I absolutely agree there is a bridge between Marta, Rowe, and all of them leveling and saying the Force must be free and the Jedi are harming it, and I'm going to wipe out the galaxy and do a ton of drugs. Like, there is something missing.
Well, it's the children, right? The group we saw from Path of Deceit, the ones that are out and raiding and trying to get all of the artifacts and such.
The artifacts and stuff.
That's the closest like kind of amalgamation I think that we could get there.
Yeah.
Like, this tangent of the Path of the Open Hand is going to end up becoming the Nile. But
I like that a lot.
But the message is lost at some point.
Yeah. The path, even at the very end of the audio drama, the mother was like, we are a peaceful group. We are about peace. And then, like you said, Charles, how do we get to the drugs?
Yeah. There's something there. Yeah.
What is it?
What
100
about
years? We
peace?
got to get
Well,
to
that
100
was a
years,
lie.
200 years.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
was
so
a lie.
I do think, I mean, again, I haven't read it yet, but I feel like once we get to Cataclysm and Path of Destruction, that's going to be the second half of this. If it's not, then I'm going to be very confused. But I think that hopefully that's kind of where we see that bit, because I do agree, though, Charles. I thought we'd get more of that connection within this audio drama. And I was a little surprised that we kind of kept with the same basic messaging as the first couple projects.
Right.
Yeah, that was. I guess we were hoping for something more, especially with the Battle of Jedha as being like a huge conflict. There should have been something more that came out of it.
Yeah. I also remember, real quick aside, do you remember, Wes, were you with me at the time? It was at Celebration. No, I don't think you were with me. I was walking around setting up our booth the first day, and we were in early, and Del Rey had their booth, and they had the Battle of Jedha emblazoned on the side of it, and it hadn't been announced yet. And do you remember that? Yeah, we took a picture of it, and I was like, what the hell is
That's
that?
right.
And then during the day, they put up a curtain. So yeah, like that feeling of like, what's the Battle of Jedha? And then I JG, yeah, I remember that. And I was like, after the end of it, I feel like I never quite got to that level of high of like, it was that, which again, manage your expectations accordingly. But yeah, that, no, I'm always chasing the high of that discovery moment.
Okay, so let's turn us back to before the Battle of Jedha. Let's talk about how Creighton's son, he's reunited with Solander's show, and Solander's show is there on a pilgrimage, and she notices that he's feeling a little tense, and she wants him to the Dome of Deliverance. And I was like, don't use the Dome of Deliverance for people who've actually seen Deliverance. But and to go see the Kyber mirrors with him. And I was intrigued about the Kyber mirrors because of The Last Jedi and Rey. And it was would you say that was a Kyber mirror from the Battle of Jedha? I don't know if I think it resembled it, but it definitely there is some similarities between what Solander's show had actually said about the Kyber mirrors. So she says, sometimes the mirrors offer you only your own face staring back at you. Other times they reveal inner truths, glimpses of the past or future of possibilities still being written within the Force. The point of the mirrors is to show you what you need to see, not what you want to see. What you do with that, of course, is up to you. And I was just, that's Rey. She going
100%.
to see.
I missed that. That's great.
She
that's cool.
basically had her face staring back at you, and that was what she needed to see. She didn't need to see her parents. She needed to see that she was the one that would be able to help, and she doesn't need to keep searching for somebody else.
Yeah, absolutely. Great poll.
Well, I can't remember how the story ends. George Mann also referenced the Kyber mirrors in Life Day Treasury, I believe.
Yes,
I think there was a story with those.
Yeah. I think that was the first instance of the Kyber mirrors that I tried to pull off Easter eggs.
It's on a high shelf. Sorry, guys. It's on the other side of my office.
That's all right.
Isn't that also how Harry Potter got the Sorcerer's Stone in his pocket? Wasn't that a Kyber mirror?
Yeah, absolutely. Right. That's the mirror of Kyber, Era said.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, so another sect that was brought up were the Brothers of the Ninth Door. So they didn't get a lot of screen time, if you want to call it that, but we were told that they had dark side abilities, or they played with the dark side of the Force. So I was interested to get more from them, and we got a little bit of information from Cray Dawn from the Enlightenment Bar and Grill.
The Dawn.
The Enlightenment Bar and Grill.
I gotta tell y'all, if you're not friends with Charles Henkel, you miss out on Charles's moment of reality when you found out Creighton and Creighton were two different people, and the chats we got of just rage from Charles.
I was thrown.
You're like, wait, are these different people? Yeah, dude, I'm sorry.
I'm glad you didn't get to hear Master Kraydon and like that weird breathing voice that he had. His voice is a little annoying for
It
sure.
was a little annoying.
Well, God forbid Kraydon has a son, because it would have been even more confusing.
Kraydon's son meets
Kraydon's son.
Kraydon's son.
But yeah, Wes, I do love the fact that there's like a giant battle going on, but then they all just like go to Applebee's every once in a while and just like, well,
Right.
save here.
Yeah.
It's like How I Met Your Mother. They just always go back to the bar.
But like the battle is raging at some points during this audio drama, and they're just in the bar.
And they
Like,
all
guys.
like, we should just probably go back to Enlightenment and talk about it. Like, you know what? That's a good idea. And they do it.
Yeah. It's like in a video game where you have a giant quest you're in the middle of, but you gotta like go back and like buy stuff from the merchants. Like, oh, I gotta go back to the base.
I have to upgrade my weapons. All right.
They're attacking. Well, I gotta go back. Sorry.
So, the Brothers of the Ninth Door have perfected a technique for clouding one's mind. To recall a visage from the Brothers of the Ninth Door is to see what one wants to see rather than what one was. Which was... And the first thing that they had brought up was shapeshifter. Is that what the Brothers of the Ninth Door are? Are they shapeshifters? It's like, no. Let me clarify. They cloud your mind, make you think one thing than the other. So... I feel that they're using the dark side of the Force, but do we get more of this story, or is this like a one and done?
Correct me if I'm wrong. And chat, you guys, everyone, aren't they the guys that get mentioned in Midnight Horizon? That they got that Ram and them dressed up in the masks and they had their tongues cut out or something?
Oh,
Isn't that
maybe.
them?
that
Maybe.
might be. They
'cause
did have
dressed
skull
up
masks, that was a thing.
At the Nile Ball thing. And they're like, oh, don't mess with them. And I thought they were Brothers of the Ninth Door.
Someone in
And-
the chat knows.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Stephanie's
Someone
on it. Yeah, because I thought that. So I think that these guys were like an evilly dark side cult that apparently at least carries through that. And if that's true, if not, I'm sorry, all you listeners that are listening to this on audio, that are just like 15 seconds ahead to get past this point because it's not real. But I think that at least their legend continues, and I love the idea that they're not shapeshifters, but they are consciousness like prodders, which seems very forced, right? Like it's like force suggestion of a Jedi, which is kind of a dark side technique, right? Like you're literally changing what someone else thinks they're seeing. And to me, the move along kind of Obi-Wan force suggestion. This is just that, but amped up a little bit with the dark side of like, not only am I going to make you think something different, I'm going to make you think you remembered seeing something else.
Yeah. I mean,
I like
they're
that.
almost a little bit the opposite of the Kyber mirrors we were just talking about. They show you what you
Ooh.
want to see, because
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
Irem soldiers said, oh, they were talking, or there was an Arano soldier talking to the droid, and then vice
Yep.
versa and all of that. So that was interesting. And I do think these guys are cool. I would love to see more of them. I just like learning about all the different views of the Force. It's
Yeah.
been one of the biggest things that came out of this that I think is really interesting. But the biggest question I have, what happened to the first 8 doors? I'm
Charles,
serious.
you threw
You
me.
ever
I don't
see
know.
those restaurants? You ever see those restaurants that have a number at the end and it says it's like number 5, and you're like, what happened to the first 4? That's how I felt about the Brothers of the Ninth Door.
Yeah. Well, I'd be
It's
more
somewhere in the
scared of
book.
the Brothers of the Seventh Door because 7, 8, 9. So I don't know.
Oh, yeah.
Are they enemies?
I can't believe. I'm so angry. I just laughed at that. You caught me off
I
guard. I
have to
wasn't
pull
ready.
that clip and keep it with me for the rest of my life.
That's good.
Okay, so going from mystery to one of the saddest parts of the book. Gave me chills, listened to it twice, and chills each time. Is Keth Sarapath, the helpful assistant of the Church of the Force, that befriended Solander's show. And he got hurt, and he got knocked out, and he woke up, and he went back to help his friend, and in the act of that, he was killed. So right before he became one with the Force, Keth revealed the reason he stepped in to help Solandra. I just didn't want to let them hurt my friend. Solandra thought that Keth wanted people to know what truly happened during the bombings and who was responsible for the war, but it was far more simple. So what does that say really about the common people, the regulars during the High Republic?
They are important. I think, like in a very simple yet also profound way. I think that the normal people are important. I think that we see that in Light of the Jedi. Like the Jedi help save the day, but so does a scientist, right? Like we remember, I forget his name, Kevin. Remember Kevin from Light of the Jedi?
Yeah. The best Star Wars name.
Kevon, whatever the hell it was. Yeah, Kevin. From Light of the Jedi.
Kevin Tar? Is it Tar?
Kevin
Yeah,
Tar.
Yeah.
Good pull.
That's it.
Steel
Teamwork.
trap.
Yeah, but I think that's one of the important things about this is that it is just people, and like go to the Rise of Skywalker. It's just people, right?
Yeah.
I think that's very Star Wars of it, and I think that this particular moment with Kat saving Solange Show at the expense of his own life really hit me as well. I think it was probably my favorite scene in the audio drama because it was a personal story. And they both had a moment to like really become characters and form a bond. And I think it was George Mann as well as the other architects being like, listen, we all know the Jedi are the heroes. We love them. But a Jedi is not going to be everywhere all the time. And sometimes a regular person, quote unquote regular, needs to help save a Jedi. And I really love that insertion there. And I think that seeing how Solange maybe takes that with her in Wave 2 will be very cool. So I hope that she does keep that as well, because I think it's a very profound lesson.
Yeah. I mean, you need the common people in these stories to provide scope, right? Like that's foundational to Star Wars. That's Uncle Owen and Aunt Beru, when Luke rushes back to the homestead. I mean, like at the end of the day, they frame what's going on, and you realize, okay, this Jedi didn't die, but that's a superhero at the end of the day. Like we have to remember how much destruction is happening at the hands of the antagonist, whether it's the Empire or the Path of the Open Hand. And I've really liked a lot of the characters that aren't Jedi in a lot of different Star Wars stories. The one that comes to mind, because I was just listening to Star Wars Archives. The most recent one is Eli Vanto in the Thrawn, the canon Thrawn stories, at least. I mean, just the common guy, even in that first book, and he ended up kind of being my favorite. And I think actually that Keth probably was my favorite character in this story too.
Yeah, he had that droid with him, P3, that couldn't speak in basic. I mean, he spoke in basic, but he couldn't give you a concrete answer to your question because he only spoke in like
Bible
like
tracks.
songs from the church.
Yeah.
Right?
I was shocked at how charming I found that. That never got old to me. I actually really liked him.
It kind of reminded me of Leonardo DiCaprio when he was in Romeo and Juliet, and they spoke in the actual text from Romeo and Juliet, like in modern times, though.
Yeah.
Although if I had a friend like that, it'd be super annoying. It's like, hey man, where do you want to go get dinner? Like, fulfillment within the body. Said, no, shut up! Just tell me where you want to go.
What Taco Bell? Now,
Talk about the destruction of the soul pairs hand in hand with the destruction.
Now, I loved Keth. Charles mentioned at the top of the show how difficult it was sometimes to keep like Jedi names straight and stuff. Like a Jedi is just a Jedi here.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember Keth's name, like of all the characters in the book, like I remember his story. And it reminded me a bit of how Charles Soule opened up Light of the Jedi. Like I remember Mervyn Getter. He was the guy waiting for that date. And I was like, there's a realness to like how this is going to affect people. And getting that perspective, I think, so often gets lost in some of these bigger stories. So I was glad that we had some kind of a grounding effect in him here.
Y'all, Light of the Jedi is so good.
It's so good.
Can we sleep on Light of the Jedi, the book of the year?
Yeah.
Can we run it back? Do it again?
The best-selling High Republic book of all time. Did we sleep on it?
One random connection to that, though, is I did like the way, I think one thing that helped kind of propel me forward in this audio drama was the mechanism that they used to go like 57 hours before X. I loved that in Light of the Jedi, like, X amount of time until detonation, until collision, whatever. It's
Fifth time before the battle begins.
Yeah.
Yes.
I enjoyed that here.
You know what we need? I need them to re-record that, but with the guy that does like the Halo announcements.
Oh yeah.
Spectacular. 10 minutes before the battle begins.
Oddball.
We need a Halo night, huh?
Absolutely.
Chat, we're gonna have a Halo night.
That's still going.
And I found it interesting that the cover itself, both the audio drama and the script book, has Master Creighton's son, and then also has Ada Forte on there. And Ada Forte, she wasn't really prominent in the audio drama as much as Solandra Show was, or
Odd
even as
choice.
much as or even as
Odd
much
choice.
as like Ket Sarapath or the mother. Like she was there. She was helping. I mean, she was impartial. Yeah. I mean, I thought that was an interesting choice to put her on there because Solandra's show would have been better, especially because we wanted to see her Captain America's shield be put to work.
Yeah.
So cool. I haven't read it. Is she the main character in the middle grade Quest for Planet X? Or
I think
whatever?
so.
Yeah,
Or Hidden
I would
City?
say so. Rupert Natani is her Padawan is
Okay.
technically the main, but Solandra Show I think steals the show, as it were, and is my favorite part of that book. So yeah, Solandra starts in Quest for the Hidden City, then comes here.
Okay. So, skipping over to the bad guys, the antagonists of the story, Tilson Graff. So Tilson Graff is
What a punk!
Yeah, he is
What a punk.
He's a member of the Graff family by name. Apparently, in the beginning of the audio drama, they said that he was cast out for doing something. He didn't get into what, probably drugs. And so he's trying. They didn't say it in the beginning, but he's trying to get a way back in. So the way to get back in, eliminate a person from another prospecting family, kind of dwindle that family down, and maybe he gets back in the good graces of his Graff family. So we find him as the orchestrator of the bombings. He gave incentive to the Brothers of the Ninth Door, gave incentive to the ambassadors from Irem and Arano, gave incentive to the Path of the Open Hand. He was just given money. He was given enforcer droids. He was given ships. He was given all kinds of stuff. And so he was kind of the puppet master, if you will. Unfortunately, he didn't make it out alive. Tilson Graff got shot in the chest by the mother because he was like, if you don't take me with you on your ship to get out of here, I might tell somebody. And the mother was like, you know what? You're right. I guess you got to come with me. Ah! And then shoots him right in the chest. Got him. Like, how did you not see that coming, you idiot? Like, you're so smart and you got this whole thing laid out. You spend all this time giving money to the Brothers of the Ninth Door, said you're going to make them a new temple with all this money, right? And then the very you were 5 minutes away from getting away with this, from getting on a ship and going away.
Seriously, right there.
It all goes to shit. And I said it. All right. So, anyways, with Tilson Graff, is this story with the Graffs and the Santecas, is that done? Or is there still mingling? Is there still a feud with those two clans as we get into, I guess, into the to further down the line with phase 2?
There's more.
There's got to be more,
Yeah,
right?
I think there's got to be more because, keep in mind, I'm trying to ask myself, why is this important? Why is this important? Why is this important? The Graff Santeca stuff is important because of all of the stuff that happened, I think, in phase 1. I had to check myself, not wave 1, phase 1. Everything that happened with was it Mari Santeca,
Yeah.
and all of the actual paths and the special drives that enable you to do this and that. I mean, that has to work its way in here in one way or another, right?
Right.
When were the Graphs brought up? Were they brought up in phase 1?
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh God, what's
Forgot
They're
what
in
it
one of
was.
the young
Graf.
Was it the last wave? Maybe.
Xylan Graf, yes.
Yeah, Xylan Graf, and Out of the
Yeah.
Shadows. He was
The
in
guy that
very
was like
predominantly.
over the top fancy all the time.
Super
and
flamboyant, tons of
that-
money.
Yeah, he
Yeah.
had like the pet lion that people kept sitting on because they thought it was a couch. You remember that?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. Yeah, and they were in big with the Nile as well, I believe, or something like that.
Yeah, the Grafs are like the Sith
bad.
of prospectors, and the Santek are the Jedi of prospectors. That's how
Okay,
I think of it.
There it is.
That's
Easy
that's
enough.
a good way to put
Easy
it.
enough. Yeah. They're gonna
I'm
be
a
around for
simple
while.
man. Just
Making your way in the galaxy. Yeah, very easy about that.
Okay. So working our way towards the end of the audio drama, the Battle of Jedha is going on. You got Irem soldiers there, Aeronol soldiers there, mechanized load lifters, I guess, that weren't supposed to be used for
Yeah.
battle, but they reconditioned them to that. And
I
then,
thought of those as the things in Avatar where they're like in the mechs with the giant guns.
well,
Like,
I was
that's
thinking
what I
of
imagined just
Alien.
dropping.
I was thinking of Alien.
Same director. It all works.
And then enforcer droids were used. So all kinds of chaos is going on. Meanwhile, Salander So is out there just like, hey, by the way, I'm on top of your droid, or on top of your mechanized giant mech droid, and please get out or I'm gonna kill you. And they get out and they jump out and they leave. They do this like a couple times. But there was an amazing speech given by Master Creighton's son to all of the soldiers of both Aeron and Aerono. And says, what are you fighting for? There's been so much bloodshed. We have a chance for peace here, and you're still fighting. We are on the precipice of stopping this, of you killing your brothers and your sisters, your mothers, fathers, your future children, and they bought into it. They bought it. So, but it was an incredible. It was from part 6, part 6 Salvation in the audio drama. He talks for a good 3 minutes and it sold me, but I couldn't write it all down. But I just wanted to make sure that I made a point that this whole speech from Master Creighton's son was the reason that both armies had stopped fighting, just through a speech and not through the Jedi actually killing all the droids and then killing all these soldiers from Irem and Aerono. Just it's a speech, and just what the Jedi should do as peacekeepers. They should say, we're using our words rather than our might.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, if you're in the script book, by the way, it's page 436 and 437, almost the entire thing. It's just that's the whole speech. So I don't blame you, Wes. But yeah, I do love that idea. Because there's a really nice to connect to George Mann a little bit. There's a really great Doctor Who episode where in the Peter Capaldi seasons, for those that are fans, where he has a great monologue about how every war is just fighting and fighting and fighting until everyone just eventually sits down and talks. And that's the whole point. Is that so just start talking, because all you're gonna do is kill each other and die and die and die, and then you're eventually gonna have to do what you should have done all along and just talk. And I think that's a really wonderful notion in this, is that, Creighton's son is having that moment of like, listen, we're going to get there eventually. So just skip all of this, stop all of this. And I think in a time where we want the laser swords and the lightsaber fighting and the thrilling heroics and stuff, that's great. And, part of, ironically, what we wanted more out of this audio drama, at least on my end, which was the action, this speech is kind of the antithesis of that. It's saying that, no, we don't need more action. We don't need more bloodshed. We all need to stop and do what this medium of audio drama can actually do, and that is talk, and that is do a speech. And I think it was a great speech. And I think, your mileage may vary on whether you like this more than some of the action-packed stuff, but I think it was definitely very impactful. And I liked that he got that speech at the end, as the Obi-Wan, Stellan Gios-esque character,
Right. So, having said that, we had buy-in from both sides of Irem and Aerono, but we didn't, and we never had, from the ambassador of Irem, and that's Ambassador Sirox.
Yep.
Every time I tried to spell that, it always changed to Xerox, and there's an Ambassador Xerox. So-
Ambassador Xerox.
but she never really bought into the marriage between Ziri and Fontu and the peace treaty between Arano. So Creighton's asking Ambassador Xerox to tell her forces to stand down. It's like, listen, this has got to end sometime. I mean, all we're going to do is keep killing each other. We just need to stop. And Ambassador Xerox has an answer for him. And I slowed the audio drama down to like 0.5 so I could write this all down. And I definitely wanted to get this across because it's amazing how people are still or the ambassador or even people within the story are still so tunnel vision to this, how they will never get over it. And this is kind of an example of that. No, Master Jedi, you don't understand. It was too late before we even got to Jedha. Too late a year ago. Too late, innocent people like me all over Irem lost their children to this bloody war. For years, they asked us to fight their battles, to sacrifice our loved ones, our husbands, wives, partners, and children on the altar of their glorious war. And we did so willingly. We followed them to hell. We pledged our very existence to their cause. And then one day, just like that, they tell us to lay down our weapons, that the fighting is over, that there will be no more bloodshed, as if everything that had gone on before could just be forgotten, as if we could simply accept our losses and move on. Be friends with the people who killed our loved ones, perhaps even marry them. No one came and asked us about peace, Creighton. No one cared about how we, the people of Irem, felt about this so-called union, and we've lost too much to accept it all without a fight. So yes, I want them to pay. Pay for what they've done to my world and my family. I want them all to pay, as I told you when all this started. There are plenty of others who aren't prepared to forgive and forget. They want justice. So, yeah, some people, well,
Hey, George,
she definitely
that's some good
only
shit.
says Irem. It sounds like the Arano are the good guys, Irem are the bad guys.
Yeah, it's interesting.
Yeah, she's big mad.
Yeah,
and
I mean, ugh.
we talked about this a lot from what was it, Convergence?
Yep.
And like, I get it. I get kind of that thought process. I mean, it's when things have been going on as long as they have been, and when you've lost individuals, I can see how that was a very jarring announcement to just say, hey, the war is over. These two people are getting married and everything's hunky dory. Like,
Yeah.
I get where she's coming from, but at the same time, then the only end goal, I guess, that you would accept is you utterly destroying the other planet and everyone on it, like, which isn't very practical either. So,
Right.
like you were saying with the Doctor Who stuff, I mean, eventually you just got to sit down and figure this out.
Yeah, I think that this speech it's interesting in a couple ways, because one, it's not the speech anyone wants to see, right? It's the like, no, we're not going to go for peace, and that's not the good story. But I also think it's the most humanizing, because I think there is that bit of like, how dare these rich people up on their pedestals decide that all the bloodshed and stuff, you know, all the blood I've shed, all the people that I've known that have died for them, no, never mind. Wedding time. You know, and it is just like the injustice you have to feel for that is so hard to convey. And yet I think George does it brilliantly in this speech. And I think that's one of the things that, you know, there are some things that I don't care for in this audio drama. There's some things that are forgettable, but things like this I think are really core principles of, like, you know, the people at the top have to be in sync with the people below that are fighting and things like that. And I think that this whole speech is when Creighton finally realizes that this whole thing's going to be a lot more complicated than they thought.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
I mean,
really easy for the Jedi to come in and do the easy thing to them. But not everyone can relate to that and just switch it off. And I think too, and that's probably a downfall of the Jedi later on as well, right? I mean, like, like they think they can go in and do the easy thing, which is probably why they didn't try to end slavery in the Outer Rim, right? Like, things like that, they're difficult and hard, and it's not often that that we have seen them get into that.
Yeah. And I mean, the people up top, the leaders of Irem and Arano and the Jedi too, to a degree, through like all the Clone Wars. I mean, they're in their minds, when you're sitting in the war room, you're playing chess. You know what I mean? You're
Right.
not the person on the ground
Right.
or in that fighter necessarily. The Jedi were, I guess. But, point being, it would be jarring to be the soldier, because I imagine that Sirox feels maybe similarly to the clones. I mean, not to take this back to that again, but when stormtroopers were brought in and clones were phased out and all that, it would be like, you made me, like you literally made me for this purpose, and now you tell me that purpose is gone, but I'm still here. So that, I imagine that's how Sirox feels.
Charles, you're really gonna watch Bad Batch this week, my guy. You're gonna have a great time.
I'm gonna enjoy it.
I'm just everything you're saying, like, yeah, brother, that's it.
Okay, sorry about that, guys. I lost audio there for a second.
Oh, good, buddy.
But I mean,
We said really good things while you were gone. Like,
I'm sure you did. I'm
A+
gonna watch
stuff.
it back.
You're gonna really
lie
be
to
blown
me.
away.
So, I mean, that was towards the end. Master Creighton and Ada had to go back to Coruscant to give a briefing to the council about what happened. And then we had a nice scene where Solandra Show actually goes back to the Enlightenment Bar and Grill and tells the story of Keth Sarabath, which was really cool to add in there, because what they made a point to say that when you go to Enlightenment is where you tell stories and tales of things that you've heard along the way, and they kind of live forever within the walls of that establishment. So she came back and told the story of Keth and how great of a person he was. And also, not to be a downer or anything, but Keth kind of got out of his tab, right?
Yeah,
absolutely.
a little bit.
Oh no.
He kept putting drinks on his tab, and it's just like,
Oh, sorry,
on the
Pizzy.
house. He's like, on the tab, and he's like, oh, all right, whatever. Yeah, I'll have another one, sure.
Bless him.
Jeez.
Sorry about that.
Poor buddy.
Okay.
Someone's got to pay that.
So this is about the point where we get into Easter eggs, and I didn't find any. I thought that I found some. I did some digging, but I couldn't find out where these particular references where they originated from. Because I couldn't find anything, I thought that they originated from this particular audiobook itself. So I'm going to say George Mann is the creator of all of these, but I doubt it. So there was the Kyber mirrors that did come up between Life Day Treasury, right? I think that was the first instance that I found out about it. But we did get some similarities with The Last Jedi with the Kyber mirror, kind of where Rey was looking into the wall. But there were a lot of like drink and food references within the city itself. So there was a reference of Gnongan weed hoppies. Have you ever heard of that?
In Asheville.
Yeah, right.
Wow.
There was
think I heard that.
pickled bush garroot. There was Supada, which was something that Creighton's son was drinking. He was like, "This is good," and it was a Twi'lek drink from Ayala. And I couldn't find any. And monk jar juice sounds like something I've heard before, but I couldn't find that anywhere either. So
All coming to Galaxy's Edge in the next 2 years.
yeah, right. So there was multiple instances of various foods. Obviously, you could hear the roasted tip yip. Get you a roasted tip yip here, and like they said that a couple times, which was great.
Yep.
So not a lot of Easter eggs that I could pinpoint. I'm sure Charles could have found a whole bunch of them, but I'm not as seasoned. I'll work on it.
The High Republic has been lighter on them in general. It kind of references other books within the High Republic, which is, I don't know, it's not the most interesting thing to talk through because we just read that last month kind of thing,
Yeah.
But,
it's not like Charles's Easter eggs of like, well, the 1978 West End's game guide actually had this point. It's like, no, this just happened in like phase 1.
Yeah.
You know?
But I was trying to keep an ear out too, because I should have helped you with Easter eggs and I did not, but I didn't catch many either.
Yeah.
So I don't think there was much to catch.
Okay.
I don't think. I'm sure our listeners will tell us we're wrong. And please do in the comments.
Yeah, let us know what I missed, or if any of these foods that they were shouting out, or that the Jedi had tried are actually part of the Star Wars universe in some other sense, whether in Legends or somewhere in canon. So That is what I had written for some of the discussion points based off of
Dang.
the quotes that I got, but I wanted to go through a couple of the characters that I did mention. Gelanatai, the Jedi Wakeseeker, was there as well.
Yeah, she showed up.
She was there just giving. I think she appeared as like a on a like data pad or whatever. There, she was talking to both Creighton's son and Ada Forte. And then Misuk and Selik were the Guardians of the Wills that helped. Unfortunately, Misuk died in that battle. And then there was a Wookiee Path of the Open Hand member, and it was Yukchuk, right? It was like Yukchuk or Yuck or Chuck Yuck or something like that. And I was trying to find a picture of him anywhere. I put a question mark next to his name because I couldn't figure it out. But the mother had a Wookiee enforcer with her. So I thought that was pretty interesting.
Wow.
Path of the open paw, as it were.
There you go.
Yeah.
Path of the open gorilla hand.
There it is.
'Cause
There
they
it is.
You got those creepy hands.
Also, the chat is reminding us that in this audio drama and also in the comic, the giant statue that we see
That's right.
on Jedha in Rogue One was actually taken down. So
Sorry,
that's,
you're right. Yeah,
yeah.
that was a big
Yeah.
part. The protector.
Protector.
The
Yeah.
Protector, yeah. And you see that plug for the comic, the High Republic issue 3 from last week, volume 2, issue 3. It's all confusing, but that's where we see that as well.
So in the audio drama itself, it talks about how the people of Jeddah actually watch the Protector fall during the battle, and they're like, "What have we done? We came here. That was a symbol of peace, and we're here watching the symbol of peace fall, and war is brought on Jeddah." It's just kind of like a foreshadowing event of what's to come now that the giant statue, the Protector, is... I mean, it looks like Luke Skywalker from The Last Jedi.
A little bit, but it... Oh, God. I remember that. I still remember seeing that shot in Rogue One for the first time to this day. Just like, what a moment.
Yeah.
Ooh, Noah Rogers in the chat hit one. The Electro Harp came from Legends from MedStar Battle Surgeons.
Oh, nice.
Whoa,
love a good
MedStar
MedStar
Battle
reference.
Surgeons.
Good old Bear Sophie.
We love it.
So, as we do, after we tell how we feel about the book in the beginning, we go through the plot summary, we go through the discussion points, some of the Easter eggs. How do we now feel about the book? Is this something we feel better about the book? Do we feel better about what's coming after the book? I keep saying book, it's the audio drama, but it does have a script, so it is a book.
It's all books now.
So, I mean, just speaking for myself, I listened to it once, not thinking about whether I need to take notes for it. I just wanted to take it all in. And then I took notes for it second time. It was a good thing that it was shorter than normal. I listened to it at like 1.2 speed, so I was able to get through it in like 4.5 hours. But I felt that it lacked the battle scenes that I normally would read with a narration, and I felt that should have been I guess they should have elaborated on that more, but I think it was hard to do. So I'm not really knocking it for that, or George Mann or anything like that, because it was a difficult task to do. I mean, I think audio dramas with a full cast are fantastic because it's not just one person with a different voice. Even though Mark Thompson is fantastic and he can do that. But I thought it was... I wanted a little bit more payoff after reading Convergence, and like how both Iram and Arano were at odds. They're coming to peace, and then we find out that they're still at odds. There's that. But I was kind of looking for something more solidified as where we were going in Phase 2, much like you said, Eric. So, gentlemen, Tim, how do you feel after going through the roundtable?
Yeah, I think I still feel about how I did beforehand. I am hopeful for what comes next. I think this felt like the most I've been able to follow a Phase 2 project so far. And so I'm hoping that now that we have kind of concluded this wave, that it ends on a pretty strong note. I think all of the players, even if I can't remember their names very well, I think all of the players are kind of together. we kind of have some touch points for where everybody is and kind of what the chessboard looks like. And so I'm hoping that we end pretty strong. So I had a good time.
Charles, how about you?
I think broad strokes wise, I feel similarly to when we started. I still think I just happen to not be a big audio person. I have a hard time following that, and that's not the fault of Star Wars or George Mann or anyone else. It's just how I am. I think if I read the same story and it was told in a more classic way with narrator and all that stuff, and it was written, I think I would probably have enjoyed it a lot more and followed it a lot better. But having this discussion has made me remember a lot of the aspects that I did like a lot along the way. Y'all mentioned the Brothers of the Ninth Door and that whole mystery part. I thought George wrote that part really well. I found that intriguing how no one seemed to have the same story. It kind of had that Last Jedi feel, where there's two different scenes of how different people saw it, and then there's the truth. And so I liked that a lot. I really liked Keth. I really liked P3 as characters. And I mean, Jedis with shields are awesome too. So all those things definitely are highlights. But overall, still not as big of a payoff as I wanted. And I still feel a bit lost here in phase 2. But, holding out hope and still looking forward to the next project.
Eric, round us out.
Totally. Yeah, I'll say that. I mean, it's with every roundtable, I do feel more connected to it now, just having talked about it. I really like the concepts a lot, and I think in retrospect, that's what this phase is going to be a lot for me. I really like the ideas of it. I like the ideas of the war talks. I like the ideas of the Force stuff. The specifics still do evade me a little bit, but I am more excited now, kind of thinking back on it, to see where Wave 2 lands us. And I think that at the end of the day, if the quality of the writing is good, then I'm in. I think that, I haven't read Lydia Kang before. I've read Cavan a bunch, so I have a lot of faith in these concepts being taken forward. I do hope that there are a few more character moments that really kind of infuse these protagonists with the love that we had for phase 1 going forward. But like with Solandra's show, I feel like she was excelled here. And I think after chatting about it, I respect more what they did with Keth and some of the other people on the ground. So overall, not my most favorite, still a worthy addition to it. And I'm interested now to see, once phase 2 is done, is this going to be the turning point that we hoped it was going to be? Or is it just going to be another step kind of on the way to a bigger wave 2? And I guess we'll find out later this year.
Yeah. I really appreciated the belief systems of the different groups, how they keep pushing that on. So I like that about the audio drama part and the theme that was present throughout the entire story.
You can get a lot more of that in the mainline comics as well, with all the different sects and the convocation of the Force. It's so that's been very rich when it hits. So yeah, I hope we get into that a lot more.
Okay,
it's good stuff, man. They keep expanding. Again, I think that wherever this ends up in phase 2, they've really expanded Force lore on a level that we haven't seen before. So we'll see. We'll see where else they take it. And I mean, even after the High Republic phase is done, there is so much here now that is on Jedha now canonically, and it can be spread out through the universe. And I think that's going to be really fun to see in years to come.
Yeah, it's nice to see it's not just Jedi and Sith only. There's other things, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
Thank you, Wes.
Wes, killed it. Well done, man.
Yeah, that was awesome, man.
Well done. And we're going to be rotating these roundtables continuously throughout the year. The next one, heads up, folks, we got a while. We got a little ways. Jedi Battle Scars is going to be our next big roundtable, I believe. And I think Corey's running that one, so he's going to have to read it. So stay tuned for that. Before we get out of here, Tim, thank you so much for coming on, man. Always a pleasure.
Yeah, thank you, Tim.
Love seeing you.
Tim.
And all you guys in the chat, so many great points made tonight. Thank you so much. And to all of you listening that do so either just for the roundtables, every week, this is your first episode. Thank you. We love you so much. And
I'm sorry if it's your first episode.
I am not. You are welcome. And on that, that'll do it for this week's episode of The Living Force. If you support us on Patreon, thank you again so much. A special thank you to Brian Dooley, Earl Q, Robert Thomas, and Carl Sander on our Jedi High Council, and James T, Elizabeth QTA, Ashley Ingalls, Chris Carrizo, and Sally and Chris Eilerson on our Alliance High Command. You can find us on Twitter. I'm at Eric Eilerson, Charles is at C. Hanko, Wes is at Boss West, Tim is at T Guthrie 2. A special thank you to Matt Davenport, our amazing editor, Ryan, our graphic designer extraordinaire, and Wes, our producer and community manager. Thank you to Charles, Wes, and Tim for potting with me tonight. Thanks to all of you for tuning in. And as always, may the force be with you.